All right, so today we're diving into a case that I think really captivated everyone's attention.
Yeah,
The Gabby Petito case.
it sure did.
You know, it's
A lot of twists and turns.
you sent over so much information about this,
Yeah,
and there's so many layers to it.
yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to unpack the most important pieces and see what we can learn together.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this case is just how public it all was
Right.
because of social media. It
Yeah.
was like we were all watching this mystery unfold in real time.
Yeah, it all started with Gabby.
Right.
You know, she's this 22-year-old woman who loved to travel,
Hmm.
and she set off on this cross-country van and life adventure with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
Yeah.
And from what they posted, it looked like the perfect love story. You know, exploring all these beautiful places.
It seemed like it, right?
But we know
Yeah.
the story takes a really dark turn.
A very dark turn. Yeah, and the timeline is really important here.
Yeah.
We know that Brian returned to Florida alone on September 1st in their van. And then 10 days later, on September 11th, Gabby's family reported her missing.
Right. And that's when everything blew up
Yeah.
in the media and online.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you see the double-edged sword of social media.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this hashtag Find Gabby. It was trending everywhere.
Right.
And it definitely helped raise awareness about her disappearance and put pressure on law enforcement.
Yeah, it got everybody involved, it seemed like, right?
Right. And people were even acting like online detectives,
Oh, yeah.
scrutinizing every little detail of Gabby and Brian's social media posts for clues.
It was amazing to watch.
It was
Some of those internet sleuths even pointed out, like, inconsistencies
right.
in their online activity.
Yeah.
You know, there's that last text message that Gabby's mom received on August 27th. He
Right.
said no service in Yosemite.
Right.
But a lot of people question if Gabby even sent that or
Yeah.
if they were even in Yosemite.
Yeah. It's chilling to think about. And all of this is happening while the official investigation was focusing on Brian in that van.
Right.
But there's a problem. Brian wasn't talking to the police.
Right.
So that silence and the fact that he returned alone made him a person of interest,
Right.
which basically means he was someone the police considered possibly involved.
Yeah, it's important to remember that that doesn't automatically mean guilt, right?
Right.
It just means the police need to learn more about that person and their potential involvement.
Yeah.
But in this case,
Yeah.
Brian not cooperating definitely raised a lot of red flags.
Right. And then on September 19th, the news that I think everyone was dreading broke.
Yeah.
Gabby's body was found in Grand Teton National Park.
Heartbreaking.
It was ruled a homicide. The cause of death was strangulation.
Really changed everything, right? It went from searching for a missing person
Right.
to now figuring out what happened to Gabby and if Brian was involved.
Right. And then just to add another layer to this already complicated story,
Yeah.
Brian himself vanished.
Oh, yeah, he did.
On September 14th,
Right?
his parents reported him missing,
Uh-huh.
claiming he went for a hike in the Carlton Reserve in Florida.
Right. This huge wilderness area.
Yeah.
25,000 acres.
And this just intensified all the media attention and public scrutiny even more.
Oh, for sure.
And the search for Brian captivated everyone.
Mhm.
I mean, we were glued to every update,
Yeah.
desperate for answers.
Absolutely.
And then weeks later, on October 20th, Brian's remains were found in that reserve.
Right.
His death was ruled a suicide by gunshot.
Right.
And while this discovery, you know, it gave some people a sense of closure,
Yeah.
it also left a lot of questions unanswered,
A lot.
especially about Gabby's last days and whether things might have been different if Brian had been found alive.
Yeah, if he could have told us something, you know.
Right.
We may never know the full story of everything that happened between Gabby and Brian on their trip.
Yeah.
But I think as we dig deeper into this case, we can explore some really important themes that came up, like
Yeah.
domestic violence. Right.
The power and the dangers of social media,
Right.
and also just the differences in how missing persons cases are covered.
Yeah, and a really key moment in the story, as you know, from all the stuff that you provided us,
Right.
is that police encounter between Gabby and Brian in Moab, Utah
I guess 12.
on August 12th.
Yeah.
And the body cam footage from that incident revealed a lot about their relationship and raised some serious questions about the possibility of domestic violence.
Yeah, that footage is crucial for understanding their relationship.
Yeah.
It gives us a glimpse into this moment of conflict and raises really important questions about the signs of potential abuse
Yeah.
and how authorities should respond to those situations.
So let's take a closer look at that encounter
Okay.
and really unpack what it tells us about domestic violence. You know, especially in relationships that seem perfect from the outside.
Yeah, like Gabby and Brian's did at first.
Yeah.
So that Moab incident is interesting,
Yeah.
because that body cam footage gives us a glimpse into their relationship.
That's so different from what they were showing online.
Right.
In that footage, you see Gabby.
Right.
She's clearly upset and emotional.
Yeah.
And Brian seems really calm and collected.
Yeah, it's like a total 180 from their happy social media posts.
It is, right.
It just reminds you that what you see online isn't always the whole story.
Exactly. And it shows how tricky domestic violence can be. It often happens behind closed doors where no one can see.
Right.
And the fact that Gabby admitted to hitting Brian during that encounter,
Right.
it makes it even more complicated.
It does. It really does. And, the police ended up separating them for the night.
Right.
But they didn't arrest anyone.
Right.
And looking back, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
did they miss some important warning signs?
Yeah.
Could things have turned out differently if they had done something else?
It's hard to say for sure,
Right.
but it shows that we need better training and resources to help police officers recognize and respond to these situations. And we need to do more to raise awareness about the signs of abuse.
Yeah.
So people can get help if they need it.
This case really highlights just how complex domestic violence is
It really does.
and how it doesn't always fit into these neat little boxes.
Mm-hmm.
It also sparked this huge conversation about social media
Oh, yeah.
and how it can both promote these unrealistic relationship ideals and also amplify missing person cases.
It's a strange mix, right?
It is.
On one hand, social media helped get the word out about Gabby, and it got people involved in the search.
Right.
But it also created this space for speculation and misinformation.
Yeah, and all that attention online.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been so overwhelming for both Gabby and Brian's families.
Oh, absolutely.
They were grieving and dealing with this unimaginable situation.
Right. And at the same time, they're in the spotlight of this global news story
Right.
that's fueled by social media.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that there are real people at the heart of this tragedy.
Always.
And, when we're talking about social media's impact, we have to talk about this issue of disproportionate media coverage.
Yeah.
Gabby Petito's case got so much attention,
It did.
which is understandable given what happened.
Right.
But it also makes you think,
Yeah.
why don't some cases get that same level of attention?
Exactly. Like cases involving people of color.
Right.
Or indigenous women.
Right. They often go unnoticed.
They do. And Gabby's case, even though it was so tragic,
Yeah.
it really shined a light on this problem in the system.
Right.
This difference in how much coverage missing person cases get
Right.
based on things like race
Yeah.
or social status or even how worthy people think the victim is.
It's a disturbing reality, and it needs to change.
It does.
Every missing person deserves our attention.
Absolutely.
Every case should be investigated thoroughly, and the media should be covering them.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter who they are or what happened.
No, it shouldn't.
So Gabby's case, while heartbreaking,
Yeah.
it could actually help create some positive change
I hope so.
and lead to a more fair and equal response to all missing person cases.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. So thinking about the Gabby Petito case with all its layers, what are the big takeaways that you think are important for our listener?
I think the biggest one is that we need to understand domestic violence better.
Yeah.
We have to challenge those ideas in society
Yeah.
that make unhealthy relationships seem romantic.
Right.
And we need to create a culture where victims feel safe asking for help.
Right.
And where people who see something happening
Yeah.
feel like they can step in and do something.
Yeah. And what about social media? I mean, it's powerful,
It is.
but we have to use it responsibly
Right.
and be careful about spreading misinformation.
Yeah, and causing more pain to people involved.
All right.
We need to be smart about the information we see online.
Yeah.
Especially with these big cases like this one.
Yeah.
Check your sources. Don't believe everything you read.
Right.
And remember that these stories are about real people whose lives are being affected by all of this.
What strikes me is that this case shows that we need a lot of different solutions
Yeah,
to deal with these complex issues.
absolutely.
It's not just about the police or social media. It's
Wow.
about education, right?
Awareness.
Empathy,
Yeah.
and changing the system itself.
We need to look at the whole picture
Right.
and see how individual choices, societal norms, and biases all play a part.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What are some things our listener can actually do to make a difference?
Yeah. That's the question, isn't it?
This case, it's so sad, but it also feels like it's opened up all these important conversations
Yeah.
about domestic violence
Yeah.
media coverage and using social media responsibly,
Right.
it's a lot to take in.
It is.
It also feels like we can actually do something to change things.
I think so. Yeah, it starts with being aware.
Right.
You're already doing that by looking into this case and learning about all the different sides of it.
Right.
Now it's about taking what you know and actually doing something with it.
So what can our listener do? Where do they start?
One of the biggest things you can do is learn about the signs of domestic violence.
Right.
There's information online,
Yeah.
and organizations like the Gabby Petito Foundation,
Right.
they can teach you about those subtle red flags and show you how to help someone who might be in a bad situation.
Recognizing those signs early on, that could really make a difference in helping someone get out of a dangerous relationship.
Exactly. And if you're worried about someone, don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
Just listening to them without judging can really help, especially if they're feeling alone and scared.
And what about this issue of the media not covering all cases equally?
Yeah,
We need to fight for a system where every missing person gets the attention they deserve.
absolutely. We can start by supporting organizations
Okay.
that focus on missing person cases,
Yeah.
especially the ones that the mainstream media tends to ignore. We can also hold media outlets accountable.
Right.
Call them out when they're biased.
Yeah.
Demand more balanced reporting.
It's about using our voices to make sure everyone's story is heard and to push for a fairer system for everyone.
Right.
And on social media,
Yeah,
we can all try to be more responsible
for sure.
and create a more caring online world.
Absolutely.
So that means being careful about what we believe,
Right.
checking our sources before we share things, and thinking about how our words and actions affect others.
It's easy to get caught up in all the online chatter,
It is.
but we have to remember that these are real people.
Yeah.
We're talking about real lives.
We need to treat each other with respect,
Yeah.
even online.
Kindness goes a long way.
It does.
And if you see something that seems wrong or hurtful,
Right.
you have to say something.
This deep dive, it's been so sad,
It has.
but I've learned a lot.
Me too. It shows that even in the worst situations, there are things we can learn and ways we can make things better.
I agree. And even though we may never know everything about what happened to Gabby Petito,
Right.
her story can help us be more aware, more compassionate, and take action.
It's up to all of us to make sure that something good comes out of this tragedy.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Of course.
We hope it's helped you understand this case better
Yeah.
and inspired you to get involved.
Even small things can make a difference.
Don't underestimate what you can do.
No,
Your voice and your actions can change things.
they can't.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.